2019 season marks 150 years of college football. The Patriot League Network is celebrating this milestone by taking a look at some of the incredible leaders of today. These Patriot League graduates all have unique stories, but share a similarity in establishing leadership and character on the gridiron. Today we have the two-time Patriot League Football Scholar-Athlete of the Year, David Berardinelli. The 1993 Bucknell graduate went on to get his Juris Doctor at Harvard Law and has spent time at the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York. But the majority of his career has been centered in Pittsburgh, where he has practiced law at DeForest, Koselnick, Euclides, and Berardinelli. David joins me now in the PLN studio. David, you're one of just 3 football players to earn the league's highest honor, Scholar-Athlete of the Year. Where does that accomplishment rank in your long list of accolades over the years?
To me, the Patriot League is about putting a capital S in the term student athlete, considering that there are over 20 varsity sports offered at the majority of the schools. To be singled out as the Scholar Athlete of the Year is something I put high on the accolades that I've received throughout my both academic and athletic career. To me, from the athletic standpoint, it's right up there with being named Academic All-American. It's quite an honor and one that I'm proud of, and I know the university is proud of.
Not only did you have this great success in the classroom, you were also an all-league receiver on the field. As you take a look back on your career, what particular catch or catches stands out to you?
That's a hard question for me to answer, and I'll tell you why. Because it seemed like every time I had a big game, we were unable to end up winning on the scoreboard. But 2 catches stand out to me, and I'll do them individually and tell you why. The first would be a catch from the first game of my senior year against Pittsburgh University, a diving catch in the back corner of the end zone, probably the greatest catch I've ever made. And it was in the beginning of the first quarter. And when I came out for halftime, the ref who was standing there and called the touchdown came up to me and said it was the greatest catch he'd ever seen in his 20 years of reffing football. But more important to me, the first catch I ever had as a member of the Bison was my first game, my freshman year. I was backing up a very talented receiver named Lester Irv, who was twice All-League himself. And you were trying to figure out whether you belonged and could play at that level. And I caught a pass on an audible on a muddy field at Fordham, the first ever Patriot League game played at Fordham, probably about a 35-yard gain, sort of over the shoulder. And it really affirmed for me that I could play at that level. I was sort of a self-made player. I'm not a big guy. You might not be able to see that on a camera, but I played probably then as a freshman at 5'9", 155 pounds. So it to me showed I could do it at that level. And, as I advanced in my career, I proved that.
Now you're on the other side of things. For the last 5 years, you've been coaching and mentoring student athletes at a small inner city school, Amani Christian Academy. What inspired you to get involved with their football program?
Let me give you a little bit of background on Amani because it helps complete the circle for me. We're a small private school that serves some of Pittsburgh's most poorest and troubled communities. We sit on the border of the East Hills Housing Project, which is one of the toughest and roughest housing projects in the city. And a lot of our kids come from that area and surrounding areas that unfortunately have been unable to break out of the cycle of poverty that inflicts a lot of urban communities. We take children that have failed for one reason or another. Maybe it's their own fault. Maybe it's the public school's fault. Maybe they're not trying hard enough. Maybe they have social problems, but for one reason or another, they haven't succeeded in a public school environment. And we try and put them in a smaller, more nurturing environment. And we've had a lot of success reinvigorating the academic and social lives of a lot of children. And to me, coaching exemplifies that. So I started mentoring a young man. It would have been 5 years ago. And I had the hardest time connecting with him and to try and get in an environment where he would be comfortable and I would be comfortable. I asked the football coach if I could start coming to football practices. And I loved it. It helped. It helped me mentor that young man. It let me connect with him and showed a different side of me rather than the guy wearing the suit, right? It was the guy wearing sweatpants and a pullover and spikes, and trying to teach him and his teammates something about football, but really in the course of doing that, something about life. So mentoring one quickly became mentoring 18 or 20 and seeing them on a weekly basis. And we really try and use football as a message for how you succeed in life. The work ethic, the dedication, that'll make you a success on the field. We try and use that to teach them life lessons. And, I'm just proud to say I love those kids like they're my own children, some of them. And, when I get a message from one of them that's now gone on and is playing college football or having success in some other endeavor beyond, the boundary lines, it's really moving to me. Let me give one example. We had a talented kid the second year I coached there, went on to play and is playing major college football. He doesn't text me when he has a good game. He texted me last December a shot of his grade card that he got a 3.7, right? And that's what was important. He knew that was important to me. And the fact that I touched him in a way that he knows that's important, I think is moving to me.
You've taught these young men so many lessons on and off the field, but what have you gained through your experience and your time there?
To me, it is important to help the community, right? It is probably at its most foundational level, the best community service I can do is trying to be a role model for these young men and the women there too that I interact with. I sit on the board of that school, but to me, what I can do on that field is more impactful on a hands-on way than what I can do when I visit the school for a board meeting. And it's sometimes odd because some of the kids don't know that I sit on the board, and they'll see me waltz in there in a certain suit and tie for a meeting, and they look at me like, what are you doing here and why are you dressed like that, right? They're just used to seeing me on the field. But to me, it's all about helping the kids and helping them try through education, through athletics, and through the skills you learn in both, how to try and break out of the cycle of poverty that unfortunately has afflicted their communities.
Transitioning back to your professional career, well, there are many cases that stand out over your 18 years in Pittsburgh. You had mentioned to us earlier about your work with President Obama's Clemency Initiative. Why, when I say the name Kenneth Hamlin Jr., is that significant to you?
It's probably going to invoke some emotions right now, so I apologize in advance if I tear up. Clemency Project was a project initiated by the Obama administration Justice Department in conjunction with the American Bar Association's criminal justice section. And its goal was really to take inmates who had been convicted under mandatory minimum drug law sentences that were carrying huge sentences, 20, 30, 40-year mandatory minimums, that no longer would have carried those sentences if these people were arrested and prosecuted today. And there were several pigeonholes you had to meet to qualify for the program, but in a nutshell, you had to show that your sentence would be different. But more importantly, you had to show that you had changed as an individual. You were someone who deserved a clemency grant. I volunteered to serve as a pro bono attorney for that, and I had the good fortune of getting signed Ken Hamlin as my client. Ken was 17 years into a 30-year prison sentence and had become a role model for other prisoners, taught religious services, helped people with career training. He had done everything you could do in the walls of a federal correction institute to show that you were a changed person. And over, I think, nearly 40,000 prisoners applied for clemency under the program. Roughly 1%, maybe a little less, a little more, received it. And right before Christmas of 2015, I received a call from the Office of the Pardon Attorney telling me that Ken, excuse me, Ken was one of that 1%. It was the most moving moment of my career, as you can tell right now, to basically, I always tell people that I didn't do that. Ken did that. All I did was put words to Ken's story, but to have had a hands-on role in getting him back really 13 years of his life is the proudest moment of my professional career.
After a story like that, it's no surprise you were named Best Lawyers 2019 Pittsburgh Lawyer of the Year for Criminal Defense and White Collar. What do you enjoy most about focusing in on cases in white-collar crime?
That's a great segue because it goes hand in hand with what I did for Ken. I enjoy helping people. When someone is exposed to the criminal justice system, they're in an environment that is totally foreign to them, and literally, in a lot of cases, their life and liberty is on the line. And being a criminal defense attorney is as much part psychiatric counseling as it is lawyering. And as you walk and help somebody through that process, and hopefully to a successful outcome, the feeling that you know that you changed somebody's life, and in a time when they really, really needed help, they leaned on you and you gave it to them in a successful way, is what being a lawyer is all about to me. Helping people solve problems, and helping people through what is really a crisis in their life.
From the moment you earned your Juris Doctor at Harvard to now, you've found great success as a lawyer. For many student athletes out there, we talk to them all the time right now who are planning to go to law school and pursue a similar path. What advice would you give them, David?
Work your tails off. To me, the same things that make those young men and women who are presently Patriot League athletes successful athletes are the same things that will make you successful academically and ultimately successful professionally. That is really dedication and hard work. So what I would tell those 18 to 21-year-old student athletes today is whatever you're doing in the weight room or on the track, that dedication you bring to building yourself into the best athlete you can be, you've got to take that over to the classroom setting and the academic setting and make yourself the best student. Not student athlete, student that you can be.
Such great advice. Thank you so much, David, for taking the time today to join me and share your story. Very inspiring. Thank you.
Glad to do it. Thank you for your help.